Hello, this is At Home with Marcus Thurmond. We have Chuckie Tolson joining us today.
Hello, everybody.
They are a trans-identified individual, and we're going to talk a little bit about their experience and how it's a sociological as well as a feminist analysis. So, Chuckie,
Yes.
how do you identify? Do you identify by male or female pronouns?
I identify by both. I just allow the person that's leading the conversation to determine what is more comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more comfortable for you to call me he, then I respond to he. If it's comfortable for you to call me she, I respond to she.
So, how do you typically reconcile your pronouns in society? Like, give an example of when you had to.
Like if I go into the store and they're like, well, ma'am, I'll check you out on aisle 3. I don't take the time to like correct her. You know, I'll go with it because I'll spend more time correcting than checking out my groceries.
Right.
And then like with my family, you know, they've known me since I was a kid, so of course they respond with he. And instead of arguing back and forth with them, I'm a girl, it's just easier just to go with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I see. So, do you feel as though you must openly tell people like what your biological sex is, and like in what situations did you feel as though you needed to?
I mean, if it's someone that has like a love interest in me or something, or an attraction, then of course yes, because I want to lead with truth and let the person know, you know, what they're dealing with. But as far as like, you know, walking around with the side of my back, no.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I see. So you talk about like leading with truth. Do you ever feel as though when you're in situations you're not being truthful because you're not telling people like right away what your biological sex is? Like, I guess like further explain about like, you know, your feeling of like, you know, leading with truth.
I'm just talking about like, okay, it's known in the gay community that a lot of people trick guys into liking them. Well, I don't feel the need to trick anybody, so I'm just gonna tell them, if you're interested in talking to me beyond a superficial level, this is who I am.
Right.
But I mean, even, you know, just like, okay, in my profession, people will come in looking for a guy because of my name, and then they'll see me, and I'll be like, oh, I'm Chuckie, and they'll be like, well, I was expecting a guy. I was like, well, honey, I am. So I just have to clarify things up, you know, as the situation arises.
Right.
But I don't just walk around and just be like, oh, guess what, I'm a boy. You know I'm a boy. Make sure you know I'm a boy.
Right.
I don't do that.
Okay. So then, how do you describe the practice of your gender, and what things do you do to be perceived in the way you feel best resembles you? So in school, we were talking about the stylized repetition of acts, and how your gender is embodied through your movements, your gestures, the way that you talk, like physical features. So just like talk about how you perform your gender.
Well, I mean, I've grown up around a ton of women, and I always gravitated toward the women in my family. I mean, the things that they do and say and how they carry themselves. And I mean, I enhance my features a little. I mean, I haven't had any work. Or I haven't done anything, you know, extremely, you know, like I haven't altered myself in extreme ways. Little makeup, cute clothes, hair. I mean, this is my hair though, but
Right.
get my hair done and all that. But other than that, it's just, you know, natural and what I've picked up, you know, being around the women in my family.
Right. So, I want you to talk about your experience with men and how some men are hypersensitive of your presence, because I remember us talking a little bit about that in the past. And what do you think that says about their sexualities?
I think it's a matter of they're afraid that I might be able to pull out something in them that they wouldn't otherwise.
So their sexualities are like being challenged by your presence?
Exactly. You know, because their eyes are seeing a woman, but they know this is a boy. So why am I looking at this person in a way that I would look at a woman? So there's some confusing lines there. I can understand why.
Right.
But there's no need to be mean. It's not my fault I woke up like this.
Right. So, I guess, like, let's talk about Guyland. So, Guyland, described by this sociologist, Michael Kimmel, is this realm of when heterosexual men kind of just, like, you know, guys are guys, like, men are men. Mm-hmm. This is the guy's Guyland. Mm-hmm. So, so let's talk about how men maintain a social presence of heterosexuality, yet they actually engage in sexual activities with other men. And how do you feel as though this ties into the HIV and AIDS epidemic?
Well, I mean, this is my personal experience. I'm not saying this is for all, you know, people. But when men have to do things on the down low because for fear of not being accepted, it leaves room for chaos. Like, from what I understand about DL men, that they'll have these parties where they'll sleep with one another, they'll get drunk, and they'll be drunk, they'll be playing games, and then one thing leads to another, and they end up sleeping with a man by accident with no protection. But after the act's done, then their mind is kind of messed up, so they'll go and remasculate themselves by sleeping with women. So if not because you're having sex with men, but because you have an unprotected sex period, and then you're going home sleeping with your wife, you leave room open for a mess and a catastrophe, and that's how a lot of women end up sick in this world and not knowing it.
Right. So, how do you feel as though this leads to this relates to the HIV and AIDS epidemic within the Black community?
I mean, for right now, from what I understand, Black women have the highest rate of HIV.
Right.
And the DL lifestyle contributes to that. So, I mean, I know a lot of men that will keep their secret to their death. And they just can't say, I'm gay. Mm-hmm. And they do all these secretive type things, having all this risky sex. And it's a what's the word? It's a losing battle for one, and it just keeps rotating itself. It just keeps happening because people won't just be okay with the fact that, you know, you're gay.
Right. So then we kind of talked about religious institutions and how that played a role in it. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how the Black church and other religious institutions play this role in masquerading heterosexuality and the masquerade of heterosexuality. Mm-hmm. So these men are being perceived as heterosexual, yet they engage in homosexual activities covertly. Mm-hmm. And how this further perpetuates these covert activities. So then how does this relate? We kind of touched upon this. Let's talk about it a little bit more. How does this relate to the AIDS outbreak within the Black female community?
Well, I mean, in the Black churches, from my experience, they spend a lot of time gay bashing. I mean, every time you walk in, like me, I'm obviously gay. I mean, it's clear. And the moment I walk in church, it starts the gay bashing. Well, if someone that is secretly dealing with the fact that they're gay sees the church bashing me, then that sets in fear with them, because who wants to be bashed in church? Well, while they're trying to mask the secret, they still have a desire.
Right. And
they're running around sneaking and going in little dark, dank corners, fulfilling those desires, but not being safe about it. So I think the self-hatred begins in the Black homes, in the Black churches, right, which causes Black men to go out and do ridiculous stuff that puts them at risk and everyone around them. So until we learn how to stop beating up our children for being exactly who they are, because I know I was born this way. Right. It's not something that I chose. I'm not going to choose to be ridiculed on a regular basis. That would be insane. I've struggled and fought with who I am and what I'm about. And now that I'm okay with it, I'm going to live in my truth.
Right.
And how dare you chop down people? Okay, for example, I'm in church and you're chopping me up for being gay, but then you got the fornicator down here that's got 5 other women outside of his wife, but you can't see that. But he's your best friend, or he's the saint of church. Now, how is it okay to chop me up because I'm living truthfully, but he's living a bunch of lies, and he's rewarded for that? That's a little unfair.
Because your presence is actually like, it's actually there. Like,
Yeah.
there's actual like truth. There's credibility right there.
Yeah. So I mean, until all that psychological mess is fixed, expect the problems.
So, that's like a very interesting analysis. I want you to talk more about your theory on how the more money you have as a black person, even a black gay person, the more obstacles and oppression we face to limit our socioeconomic progress. Because I remember we were talking about that on a different occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And relating to your experience.
Into my experience, I opened a business in a small town, and I was the first gay black person to ever own a business in this town. And it just seemed like, for me, every time I turned around, there was a problem. If I do small things to get in trouble, not really knowing I'm getting myself in trouble, but it just would happen. Life happened to me.
Right.
But then it just turned into some old Lindsay Lohan mess. Every time I turn around, my name is being bashed here, there. It was almost like it was kind of set up. So people were looking for things to call me out on. So with more money came more problems. If Chuckie gets in trouble here, then we can be fined, ticketed, put in jail. I can counter, a lawsuit, whatever. It's
right.
Just more money, more problems. From my experience.
So would you also say that that also like limits our ability to progress as well?
Well, when they start slapping jackets and labels and stuff on you, yeah. Like if you acquire a felony, that cuts out a lot of things right there.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying you can protect yourself against catching a felony, but a felony could be something as minor as $151 check that you couldn't cover for whatever reasons, and then bam, you've caught a felony. So I'm saying, when you have things piled on you and it gets out of hand, your reach becomes limited.
Right.
Is that making sense?
That does make sense.
Okay. Well, I was just, and I figured that sometimes groups can be targeted for limiting the reach.
Right.
Personal opinion. I mean, like, everybody's human, and we all do and have stuff done to us that's, a little unjust, a little unfair. But when are you going to take that jacket off that person and let them get over it and move on? Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
That does make sense. So, so let's talk about your relationship with your customers, because you work in the pink collar field of work,
Mm-hmm.
which is detailed as the feminine kind of field of work.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you explain how you establish relationships with your customers, and what beauty trends do you see in high demand for your customers?
Mm-hmm.
And then, do you think that this is related to the dissemination of beauty within the media? Like, in what ways do you think this is related?
Okay, you better break some of those questions down. Ask me one, and then a couple more.
Okay. So explain how you establish relationships with your customers.
Okay. Basically, when my clients come looking for me, most of the time it's through word of mouth. They've heard from another client and they've had a good experience. Go check out Chuckie. He gives the best shampoos. His conversation's good. You can be free. You're not judged, or he slams a sew-in, whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then I personally, my work ethic works best for me when I kind of borderline take them on as a friend. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not just a client, but not my best friend either.
Right.
Like, you can come here and discuss your problems, and know that what we discuss stays in this space.
Is maintained confidential.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I mean, and then.
So at what point do you like draw that line with your customers?
As far
as like a professional and then like somewhat of a personal friendship.
Where do I draw the line with that? Asking too much of their personal business, as far as in their home life or anything like that. Like that's not my business, and vice versa for them. That's not their business either. If I care to discuss, if I choose to discuss, or if they want to discuss, then that's fine.
Right.
But prying, no.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's too far.
Okay. So then, what beauty trends do you see in high demand for your customers?
The sew-ins are driving us insane. Natural hair, extensions, of course, makeup.
Do you wanna explain like what a sew-in is?
A sew-in
to people that don't really.
Okay.
That
people that don't know what a sew-in is. It is a form of applying extensions to the hair to your hair with commercial tracks of extended hair. It comes out. Okay, let's just use my girl Kim Kardashian for example. That would be a sew-in. It's very pretty. It's very natural looking. It's in high demand.
Okay. So, are there any particular like styles with the sew-ins, or is it just like? Is it like, wavy hair, like straight hair? Like what's the particular style that you see? Do you see anyone, like any of your customers, like ever doing like daring styles? Like how often is that?
Oh yeah, every day. Like we'll get somebody that comes in and she'll want a head full of pink extensions. Or she might want blonde extended hair and have the tips dipped in red. So yeah, or we'll get somebody that will want an afro. Which, an extended afro, not just picking her hair out and they got an afro. They want extensions at it, and they want a big, round, pretty afro on their head.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And then we've got clients, that, you can be creative in any area as far as color, cut, the texture, the curls.
Mm-hmm.
Just whatever your creative level is, we'll take you there.
So, what's your opinion about like the stereotypical assumptions or like societal like delimitation, like delimiting like of the significance of like the creative aspect when it goes into hair, and rendering it as something that's ghetto or like attaching a negative meaning towards it?
Well, most times, from what I've learned in my experience, when someone comments on another person's particular style, it's usually because they have maybe an ounce of jealousy or envy for that person, and they wish that they could do that as well. Because not long after that will you see that person attempting to do the same thing that they just said they didn't like.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of perception.
It probably has like a basis in like low self-esteem.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yes.
Right.
And wanting to be that person or like that person, or we always want what we don't have. All humans do.
Right.
Okay, let's just use the groups for example. The blacks want long straight hair, so we go out and spend hundreds of dollars on it, purchasing it. The whites want to be darker, so they'll go in tanning booths and tan themselves to death.
Right.
Or spray the paint themselves orange. So we always want, all the races have something that the other race wants. It's just one big melting pot. We're just snatching from each race, something from each race to create our own perfect you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, what's privileged in society, do you feel as though it's, like, really conflicting? Like, it's, like, like, to be curvy and to be all of this is really privileged. But then at the same time, it's even, like, the stick figure is privileged, too.
Yes.
So it's, like, it's all of these conflicting things that people are meshing together to try to, like you had said, make that perfect identity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I also wanted to ask you, do you think that this is like, in what ways do you feel that this is like related to how beauty is like disseminated, like spread from the media, and like how do you think like these popular hairstyles are related to the media?
Well, the media is huge in our culture today. So if the media says that this is the new latest, hottest, then people want the new latest, hottest. But if the media says that is a hot, tacky mess, no one's gonna want to wear the hot, tacky mess. So yeah, the media has a huge influence on beauty and how we should and should not look.
Right. Okay, so then what do you feel about doing hair? And if you weren't doing hair, what would you picture yourself doing?
If I was not, I love hair. I mean, I've been doing hair since I was 14. It was a gift I was blessed with. I didn't even know that I could do hair when I started doing hair. In fact, my auntie, when I was young, I was playing with the Barbies, and I had no business doing that because little black boys didn't do that back in the day.
Right.
But when my auntie caught me playing with the Barbies, I was petrified. But instead of her flipping out on me and telling me, "Don't you dare do this," she was like, "Well, if you're gonna be playing with Barbies, you might as well learn how to braid so you can do your cousin's hair for me." So she used to braid my oldest cousin's hair several times throughout the day just to maintenance and control her hair. But she didn't have as much time for the second child as far as being a working mother, single working mom then.
So that kind of spearheaded your whole career path.
Yes, at 14. Well, I started learning how to braid at 12, and then I just, I would just start adding on little things. I see a trend, and I catch that trend, and before I knew it, I realized I had a gift. I just could do hair.
Right.
And so, what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
The other part of the question was, do you think that this would have an effective position in our economy? Like, do you think you would have an effective position in our economy if you were not doing pink collar work?
I would, but yeah, the whole hair thing. Let me just finish that up, and then I'll go on to that. That's how I got started, and I love hair, and I'll probably always do hair. But if I was not doing hair, I'd probably be doing journalism. I mean, I look back now, and I knew I always wanted to do that, but I wasn't bold enough to go off to college. I wasn't. Hindsight being 2020, wished I would have, but that's okay.
So, do you think that you would have been as effective as a journalist? Like, as lucrative economically?
Probably, yeah. I mean, because the one good thing about me is that I believe that I'm a person that takes my job serious. Like, hair is fun for me. So that's how it's easy to me. But if I have to be, like, on a job for a certain amount of hours and, like, apply myself at it, I'll do that. I mean, because just like with any other institute in life, even in high school, I had to apply myself, and I was good there. Anything beauty school, I was good there. Just anything that I've attempted to do, I've been good at it.
Right.
So, yeah, when it's in you, it's just in you.
Right.
And in my family, there was just no such thing as quitting and not finishing. That's unheard of.
Right.
I look and I see a lot of kids not completing high school. That was never even that never formed in mine and my cousin's brains that we could quit school. We would have been, like, they would no. It was unheard of.
Right.
So, I thank my family, my mom, and my elders in the family for instilling that in me, because everything that I do, I'm good at it with a purpose. They taught me how to work hard and be effective and not just be there.
So what informed your decision to not go to college?
Because in the 90s, in the small town that I came from, being an openly gay still was not a good thing. So I just was my mindset was too small to branch out on my own. And now that I've grown in that area, I look back and I'm like, okay, that's a part of my life that I let other people, you know.
Did you mean your mindset was too small or too large? Your mindset was too large for the community?
My mindset was too small to go off to college and be prosperous and become somebody. I didn't think that gay people could do that. I thought we were
I understand.
the drag of the world. Like, we need to be done away with.
Do you think that there's like progress? You've seen progress since like...
Oh, yeah. You guys have it way easier. The new generation of gay people, got way easier. It's cool to be gay. It's okay to be gay for one, but I mean, everywhere you look, the hairdressers, TV personalities, the shows, RuPaul's Drag Race. I mean, like, it's celebrated now. As when I was growing up, it was not. It was very shameful.
Right.
So, for me to go off to college and to think that I would be accepted there when I'm not accepted where I'm at, just didn't click in my mindset.
I see. So then, have you experienced problems in society because your gender does not align with your biological sex? And then, I believe you kind of mentioned like a story like with encounter with the police and like, you know, bathrooms.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here we go. When I'm out in restaurants and stuff, I normally don't use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have to, I don't. The reason why is because I know I'm a guy, and I don't have a problem with being a guy. But if I walk into the men's restroom and use the men's restroom, I get more of a reaction there than just using the women's restroom.
Right.
But I had a situation where a cop knew me personally, and he seen me go into the women's restroom. Again, I'm okay with being a boy and going in the men's restroom, but the men in the restroom had the problem with me being in the restroom.
Right.
So I would just go into the women's because it's just that much easier. The women are like, hey, girl, how you doing? And it's over and done with. Everybody's using the restroom, washing their hands and doing their business, and they're out.
Because nobody questions.
No one questions it. But this cop knew that I was biologically male, so he made an issue of it. And he let me know that you can be arrested and charged and fined for entering a women's restroom because you are biologically a male. Well, there wasn't any intent there other than using the restroom. But I do get what he's saying.
Right.
So that's where the confusion comes in my life. Something as small as using the restroom, this can be a problem.
Right.
And that goes back to that limiting your reach. If I get in trouble for this, going to the women's restroom, then I look like a damn predator. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So of course I don't want that to happen. So I have to choose wisely and carefully on what I'm gonna bring into my day. You know, I just kind of tread lightly. If I can eliminate a problem here, then I'm eliminating it.
Right.
So yeah.
I see. So, has like your gender, like, and the intersection of your gender and your sexual identity, has that ever affected your employment in the past when you weren't doing hair?
Say it one more time.
So like the intersection of like your biological sex and like your gender, has that ever impacted your employment in the past when you weren't doing hair?
Well, I've only had 2 jobs, and 3. I worked at Hardee's when I was like 17.
Okay.
But I was so young, you know, it didn't matter. I mean, I have a uniform, so you can clearly say I'm a boy, and then your hair is tied back. And I mean, I still had my ways, my effeminate ways, but I mean, as far as me doing my job, it was never a problem there. And then the other one...
Do you think that there's something specific about Hardee's as to like why... did you apply to other places, other food places?
No. I never really needed to work because I always had hair.
Okay.
I've always been in demand since I was a teenager about hair. Especially the younger you are at any job, the more in demand you are. So me doing hair, just like the big hairdressers in the town that I live in at 14 was huge to people. So they gravitated towards, me. So I never had to go find work.
Mm-hmm.
I never had to go. I've been on job interviews too.
Right.
But I didn't have to have them. I just wanted a change, Let me not always just be stuck in the house doing hair. Let me go see what having a job is like. Yeah, so.
I see.
I can honestly say I've never had to suffer any kind of issues on the job.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then, in relation to your social experience, I would say that, as a self-identified, gender nonconforming, under the trans umbrella person, I have to do a lot of emotional management and, impression management a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. So, talk about, the emotional management that you have to do, and, your experience with that, and, impression management.
Okay.
Because, I feel like there's probably, a line that you have to walk with, trying to convey yourself as a woman in a way, mm-hmm. but then still also acknowledging, yes, I am indeed biologically male.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because kids can be very honest.
Right.
When kids tell you their truth. Oh, that's a boy. I can't be upset with the fact that they called me out on something because, yeah, I am a boy. Mm-hmm. Or even if, my mindset might be in woman mode. And they'll be like, all the men come forward. And I'm still setting. And they're like, no, you too. I have to be like, oh, okay. I have to manage that emotion of.
Right.
You can't be upset because you are still biologically a boy, but you're just in woman mode right now. So you have to move.
Right.
You have to respond with men. Just like on Father's Day.
Do you ever feel out of place when you do that?
Yes.
Do you feel like,
what the hell am I doing standing up here with these damn men?
So in what situations have you had to do that? Has it in what situations when it's the stand up men and then you have to actually stand up, just describe a particular situation and then
particular situation is Father's Day.
Right.
In our church, or Men's Day. And then we have this thing called Men and Women's Day and then Father's Day. On those days, the men are honored, which is a good thing for men. The men are honored. So they'll put all the men in the front and they'll shower them with gifts, or the men lead the program on Men's Day. So my name will be on the program, or I'll be asked, all the men will be asked to come to the front. Well, when you look across the front, you see all the men in the band. Wait a minute.
Right.
What's she doing up there with the men?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then it has to be, revealed. Not even so much as a reveal, but it's just, the truth is, Chuckie is a boy. He just looks just like a girl. And he's up there with the men.
So what is that that revealing, mm-hmm. What does that make you feel in that moment?
What I feel in that moment is not...
Because I feel the opportunity is taken away from you to...
be with the women, is that what you're saying?
Well, the opportunity, for you, the personal power that it comes with, for you to, acknowledge your identity, is taken away, as opposed to,
right.
Other people acknowledging it for you.
Right.
And, making you, putting you in an uncomfortable position.
Exactly, I see what you're saying.
So then, what do you feel in that moment?
What do I feel in that moment? And honestly, it's a I don't measure up thing. I should look like the men. I should behave like them. But I don't.
Because do you feel as though there's this kind of polarity when it comes to men and women that see you said earlier in the interview that you feel as though you're standing in your truth, mm-hmm. but when you are told that you have to be in the front of the church with these men, mm-hmm. It really makes you think mm-hmm. It really makes you think, okay, I actually should be something different than my actual truth.
Right.
So, what do you feel about this whole, like, you know, polarity of, like, male and women, like, man and woman? Do you feel as though, like, it should just be, because your case is unique.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. Everything used to be black and white. Everything used to be cut and dry, like in between the lines. But society, I mean, even when it comes to sex, when it comes to color, when it comes to gender, nothing's cut and dry anymore. For example, like with me, I mean, I guess I'm a third sex, you know, as far as being transgender.
Exactly.
Mulatto children, they're not black or white. They're a whole different race now. So I think all those ramifications of what you are have to change now. It's kind of like upgrading. I don't know, what's something that we upgrade? We gotta upgrade.
Your car.
Yeah, we gotta upgrade our phone. Upgrade our iPhone.
Okay.
You want the new latest technology. We're the new latest technology as far as the differences instead of just black and white or male and female. It's male, female, transgender, black, white, mulatto.
So what do you think about so in this case you don't like the polarity of like male and woman, man and woman, but obviously like being like, you know, internalizing these things in society, this like heteronormative depiction of like what should be, what's normal. How do you reconcile your identity in that case? Like how do you feel, you know, in those instances? Like what do you feel in general like about like the gender binary? Do you feel as though like we should just eradicate it? Like if you should we just get rid of it entirely? Like what's your opinion about that?
As far as the male female thing,
right?
If we should get rid of it,
right? Do you feel as though like there shouldn't be an acknowledged like man and woman? Like because in your case it's like you're put in this predicament, like you're a mixture of both. You know,
I don't think it should be eliminated. What I think needs to happen is add-ons, new changes. I mean, it's not about you, okay, give us our way. It's about these people exist. So now we have to add on to the box. You know, like, okay, when you go to school and you take the MAP test.
Right.
And there it says black, white, Asian, or other. Instead of putting other, fill in what it is. It's mulatto. Fill in that box. Make that space available. Same with male and female. Male, female, transgender.
So, I guess I would ask you, what do you think about people that don't want to be defined by label?
That don't want to be defined.
That don't want to be defined as mulatto, even though they are. That don't want to be defined as transgender, even though they are. Like, what do you say? What do you think about those people?
I don't have anything to say about them other than the fact that.
But then, how would they fit into this picture that you'd say, like, you know, adding on?
You're talking about people that don't want to be considered mulatto?
Well, when you're saying like when you said that you'd say that you'd add on like to the male and female box with like transgender, so it'll be male, female, transgender, and even like when it's like black, white, you know, Hispanic, whatever, like, you know, instead of saying other, saying mulatto. What's your opinion about people that don't want to be defined by any label whatsoever?
Well, honey, I just don't know how that's going to fit in. Everybody's identified by something. So, I mean, I just don't even really know how to answer that question because, I mean, gotta be something. I mean, that's just how our society works.
Perhaps. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not for it or against it. I don't know. I'm lost. Let's just say that.
It's something entirely different to think about.
Yes.
Right.
And at this point, it's just a little bit too much to think about for me. Yeah, I mean, that's the only way I can answer that. I don't know.
Right.
What I've been taught is that we're just labeled, and it wasn't by choice. I mean, even coming out of the womb, either you gotta be Boy, your part is something.
Right.
Either it's a vagina or it's a penis. It has a label.
I guess this is a little off script, but I guess what do you think about people who are intersex?
Okay. What you talking about, the hermaphrodite?
Right,
Okay.
but that's actually a derogatory term, actually.
I now know that, but that's
right. Well,
yeah,
it's fine.
What I think about them, I think that they have no control over that, and they're not to be, disrespected. It's not something that they encouraged or even knew was happening to them. I mean, I would embrace them.
I guess it's kind of just like drawing the line, that's kind of what I was trying to pull from you, just drawing the line. Where would we draw the line? Because there's no.
Now I can get what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
Right, not having a label, because you can't label him male or female.
Right.
So you just opened my eyes to something. And I guess it's the same with the transgender, because most transgender people have the biological body of a male or a woman, whichever, vice versa, but the mind of that opposite sex.
Right. And even if they decide to take hormone treatments, hormone replacement therapy, it's not like the replacement therapy is not consistent for every single person. The results are always different. So that's another thing.
So maybe you're right. Maybe we should go without labels.
I was just trying to, percolate some discussion.
You got me. You got me there.
Yeah.
I'm glad my mind was open to something different. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. So one sociologist, Sigmund Freud, saw transsexuals as severely oppressed. But he also saw the universal possibility of liberation with transsexuals. And feminist sociologists believe that transsexual women prove that the plasticity of gender, kind of what we were talking about, how gender is easily pliable, it's easily bent. You know what I mean? So giving credibility to these agendas of social change, in what ways do you feel as though your presence ignites a social change in a sense?
How do I change?
How do you feel because obviously your presence is unique. You feel as though you inhabit some sort of a third gender, if you were to put a label on it. So how do you feel as though your experience changes society out there?
It lets them know that I'm I've never been asked that question. I mean, what if God uses people like me and the intersex people to show you something different? That society's labels and how we have been operating is not how. He doesn't stay within our ramifications. I do it how I do it. Now you follow me. That's all I can get from it. And so he's using me as a vessel to open up people's eyes to something different, that I am a forever changing God. I am forever creating and forever molding things in my direction. And the fact that it is foreign and new to you does not make it a horrible thing. So me being present in society changes things, because you have to open up your perception, open up your mind. I'm changing your outlook on everything. And I'm just simply a vessel. It's not about what I'm trying to do. It's about what God's trying to teach us. And the ultimate thing he's trying to teach us all is love. So I'm teaching y'all folks how to love people.
So would you say that your spirituality plays a major role in like your identity as a person?
Oh yeah, I mean I remember as a kid.
Do you identify as a Christian? Is that your if you put a label on it?
Not
even if
so much a Christian as just a child of God. I just know I have a relationship with him. I know he's there. I know he walks with me. I know he talks with me. I know he takes care of me before I realize that I'm getting myself in danger or, you know, preventing me from getting in danger. I just have a relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we go back to not wanting to be labeled, I don't need to be labeled to know that he loves me. So I wouldn't say, no, I'm a Christian. I have used that term before because that's just what people do. I'm a Christian. But no, I know I have a relationship with God.
So, what are your feelings towards people that use religion against gay people and against gay identities and against the LGBTQ culture? How do you reconcile that?
Most people that use that, they end up turning out to be the biggest frauds in the world. Like, let's just use the guy, I can't even think of his name, that spent so much time in the House and the Senate bashing gay rights and all that stuff, and only to get caught in the airport bathroom doing some gay mess himself. It's the same with people that Bible thump gay people. There's usually some type of underlying filth that they don't like about themselves, and so they spend a lot of time bashing that area
Mm-hmm.
because they're trying to do away with whatever insecurity they have. So again, I consider that a bunch of mess.
And it kind of goes into like what we were talking about earlier, that whole low self-esteem thing, maybe.
Mm-hmm. It's something within them. I mean, because there's so many things in the Bible that need to be shined on. But excuse me.
Bless you.
I know a lot of people spend most of their time bashing and using the Bible to bash gays.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't spend enough time reading. Okay, like for example, in Leviticus where it speaks about man shall not lay with other men, you know, it's
right.
an abomination. Well, in the same chapter, it says that eating shellfish is an abomination. So I think what God is saying to us is, if I'm telling you don't sleep with men because it is an abomination to me, and then I also tell you, and that's huge, right? In most people's eyes, that's huge, right?
Right.
Sleep with men.
Because that goes against every social structure we have. This whole heterosexuality.
Exactly. But then, in that same chapter, he says, don't partake anything of the sea, shellfish, it is an abomination.
Right.
So if he takes something as large as homosexuality and something as minor as eating shrimp, what he is simply saying is, I instructed you not to do something and you did it anyways. That's what makes it an abomination. Not the act of, but the doing, that the not obeying is the abomination. I said don't sleep with men. I said don't eat the shellfish. But the gay people don't bash the folks eating the shrimp. But the people eating the shrimp, stuffing their faces full at the family barbecue with plenty of shellfish, is doing a whole lot of time bashing folks over here. But both of them is an abomination. So explain that to me.